Is I'm going to paste in some areas that I wanted to cover here. This is going to be a fairly light intro. I don't want to keep you guys in here too long because there are a lot of assignments. But basically for the built-in functions that we're going to be looking at, I'm just going to comment these out. So we're going to be touching on the print function. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. Print function. Another one that we're probably going to be using is the len function. So that's how to get the length of things. Then finally, what was the other one? Oh, type was the other built-in that I wanted to talk to you guys about. Okay? So we're going to be using print a lot. And how do we print things in JavaScript? Console.log, right? In Python, it's even easier. We can just say print. So here, if I wanted to print, let's say, my name, just pass that to the print function, and we can run it here. So if you guys haven't noticed, I'm on this site, repl.it, and you can open up a, I don't want to say terminal, but you can open up a coding environment in a whole bunch of different coding languages. Okay, so here I've just opened one up in Python. So if I run this here, did I put a semicolon in there? No, you don't. No, I thought for a second you were saying I had put one in my code. I was like, oh, I shouldn't be doing that. No. So in Python, we do not need semicolons at all. Okay. Yeah. All right, so this is the result of what happened, right? We just printed my name. That's it. Okay, cool. What if I wanted to find out how many characters my name had in it? So I've got this other built-in function that I wanted to tell you guys about, which is the len function. Okay. So let's say we'll go print len. Oh, sorry, guys. Thank you for saying something too, because I might forget that. Can I close out this side window too? Oh yes, cool. Okay. Cool. So if I wanted to find out how many characters were in my name, I can do the same thing if I just print the len of my name. So let's do that. There we go. Follow me, I've got 6 characters. Cool. All right. Now the other built-in that we might come across here and there is this type function. So if we want to know what a particular variable type is, we can use the type function to find out. Okay, so let's say I'm wondering print type, and again I keep passing in my name. Let's see what we get on that. Okay, notice here that it's saying that it is of type string, right? Class string. Cool. So what about what I'm doing here, though? All of this, like, repeating my name business. What's the deal with that? Is that good?
Repeating your name? Oh, yeah, you can set that as a function. Or as a variable.
Yeah, why don't we do that, right? That would make it much more efficient or readable, so to speak. So let's just say, up here, I want to create this name variable. Now notice that I don't need to use any key names when I'm creating a variable inside Python. I can just say name and then drop it in there, right? Now I can replace all these spots where I was actually using that with this variable that I've just created. Okay, so just drop in name there. And obviously things work exactly the same, right? Because we have stored this string to that variable, to the variable name. Okay, any questions about storing things as variables? Yeah, notice how clean this syntax is, right? I don't even need a var keyword or anything. It's just name equals that, and I'm done. Fantastic. All right. So Python, as you'll find, is quite readable and quite easy to work with. Okay, cool. What other kinds of variables could we have? So I've got one here that's just a string, right? What other types of variables have you guys seen so far with JavaScript?
Arrays.
Arrays, good. So we'll get to that actually. Let me see. I think I had that in my list of things to cover. Let me just put down here data structures. All right, cool. So yeah, arrays, and we'll come to that briefly, but what other simple types do we have?
Number.
Yeah, numbers, right? So what if I could create a variable called mynum equals 5. Okay. Notice how I'm using what's called snake case here because this is Python. So that just means that everything's lowercase and then you're separating the words with an underscore. Okay. Now what if I had a second number that I wanted to add to that? So we'll say my second num equals 10. Okay. Fortunately for us, math works exactly the same way as it does in the real world. So I can do something like print my num plus my second num. Okay, we're expecting 15 on that, and very well, we actually got that. Cool. All right. Next, let's talk a little bit about actual data structures. So here we were talking about primitive types when we had things like strings and numbers, right? We also have a couple other types that we should probably mention. You guys familiar with Booleans?
Oh, yeah.
True or false.
Yeah, exactly. So let's say I'm just going to I'm going to call it my bool, and I'll set that equal to true. Okay?
You're required to have a capital T, right?
Yeah, so that's one of the things, that's the reason I brought this up is because this differs from JavaScript in that we actually have to capitalize the first letter of our Booleans, okay? So true would be capitalized, false would be capitalized.
And JavaScript, you just have a lowercase t for true?
In JavaScript, it should be lowercase, correct? Yeah. The other interesting thing is, are you guys familiar with the null in JavaScript?
Yeah.
Null?
Null.
Null? Yeah. So it's not the same as undefined, but yeah, it's another one of those types. It's kind of like an empty type, right?
Oh, right.
Okay. So Python has kind of a similar construct, only here it's called none. Okay. So if I say something like my none equals none, you see how that turned blue there? We know that that's actually a key construct in Python.
And how about the null number? I think
Oh, yeah, no.
null number.
NaN. That's a good
Oh, no,
question.
number, right?
Yeah, null number. Yeah. Oh, that's considered here.
Right.
So yeah, let's talk about that in a second. Okay, so notice here that when I just printed out the type of none, it's of class none type. Right? Kind of as expected, right? So that's sort of like what we're thinking of if we have a situation where we want to deal with a null in Python. Okay. Let's see how we would represent NaN in Python. I actually don't know.
Like, right, or something?
Is NaN. Okay, so this is actually another library, numpy.isNaN. So yeah, that may require, wait.
Maybe it's undefined, but the library creates.
It looks like maybe it's available in the, if you import the math library. So right here, yeah, let's try that real quick. This is interesting. I'm glad you brought that up. Okay, so let's come down here and let's just say print. So we need to import it, right? So let's go up to the top here. Whoops. What did I just do? Let's go to the top and let's say import math. Now down here where we want to use it, let's just say math is NaN, and then we'll pass something in there. So let's pass in some string. Trying to get rid of this. Oh, there we go. Must be real number, not string.
Oh, maybe because they established what NaN equals in is above for NaN for the OP root of the string.
X equals a float of NaN.
Because you probably established what NaN is. Oh, wait. No, but then you would just have to calculate.
Yeah, this is odd.
What is his original code?
So in the original code here, we're importing math, and then we're coercing NaN to be a float, right? Huh. And then that's returning true. But I don't know why checking if it's NaN was returning error. You'd think that is NaN would just return true in that case, right? Because it's not a number. I passed in a string. Anyway, let's not take too much of a detour on that, but that is interesting. It is kind of interesting behavior. Must be real number, not string. But if it's a real number, why are we passing it to is NaN in the first place? Anyway, I'll try to take a look into that in some downtime and check that out for you. All right, so let's keep moving. So another thing that we want to talk about are data structures. Okay, can anyone give me an idea what I might mean when I talk about data structures?
Is that an array?
What's that?
Is that an array?
An array would be one, right? And it's called an array in JavaScript. Does anyone know what it's called in Python? We call it a list. Yeah, exactly. So let's create a list here. So let's say my fruits.
Any collection of values.
Correct. Yeah, so this is just the important thing here, though, is that this collection is ordered. Okay? So it does maintain some sense of order. The order in which we put it in is going to be the order that it stays in. So bananas, oranges, apples, grapes. Okay, excellent. So that's one type of data structure. We've got a list here, and again, it maintains its sequential order. Okay. Does anybody know how I can add to that list? Say I want to add another fruit to the end of this list. Okay. Yeah, we can use the append function, right? So we can say my fruits dot append, and let's say kiwi. Now let's print out my fruits. Oops. Get this message out of here. Okay. Oh, we're still getting an error up here. Hang on one second. Let me comment this out. So actually, let's talk about that real quick. Notice how once this error occurred, did we see any of the other output from our code that we were expecting? No. Yeah, so this is an important point, is that if we run into some kind of an error in our code, we're not going to get to anything past where that error occurred. All right? So it's important to keep that in mind. All right.
Is that true in other languages as well?
Yes. Okay, great. So we've printed out our newly appended list, right? And we have kiwi at the end, so that's great. Cool. What if I wanted to remove something from my list? What can I do at that point?
Oh, so can I ask a question about the
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to add something from, so we just prepend. Is that correct?
No, I don't think it's prepend. I believe it's insert, if I remember correctly. Yeah, let's test that real quick. So if we insert, you can see the first argument that it's going to take here is going to be the index at which you want to insert.
Oh, I see.
So if I want to insert that in the front, I could do 0. Let's see, what fruit do we want to add? Maybe nectarines, right? What's that? Tacos? What the heck?
Tacos?
Yeah.
Does that
We're
wait, so then, wait, the 0 is the location?
yeah. So this is the index at which we want to insert it.
If we want to remove something, do
Yeah.
we say remove?
let's do that in 1 second. I just wanted to test out insert. So notice how once we inserted, we got it in front, right? We put it at the 0 index. Well, when we inserted, we specified we wanted it to go in at the 0 index.
Mm.
The function of append, you can put the index.
No, I believe you need to pass append in by itself. You just need it. So here, let's go back to append here. So if we say my fruits, dot append, notice how here it's only taking one argument, just the thing that you want to append. It doesn't care where you want to put it. It's always just going to put it at the end of the list. All right. Cool. So now we want to talk about remove, right? Because that's something we might do. Dot remove. So this would be the first occurrence of the value. Okay. So if I wanted to remove, say, oranges or something like that, I could pass that in, and it shouldn't be there anymore. Okay. Let's do that. So sure enough, oranges has been removed from my list. Yes?
I use the value, I use the index instead of the value.
That's what we would use pop for,
Mm.
right? So let's do this. Let's try to just pop real quick. Okay, so we popped kiwi, right? Because that was at the end before. That was the last one. Removing with an index. I don't know that we can. Oh, jeez. This isn't something you guys are going to have to do very often, and I've unfortunately forgotten how to do it. Okay, by index Python clear. Clear would remove the entire, all of the items from the list, right? Oh, I'm sorry. We can do it by index with pop. That's what I thought. It just wasn't. It didn't look like it was going to take an argument there. So, all right. So let's say we want to remove the first index here, right? So that should be at this point, since we just inserted nectarines at the 0 index, popping that 0 index should take that out. Okay, and they are indeed removed. So now we're starting for bananas. Right? Okay, so that's pretty much most of the stuff you're going to need to know as far as just kind of manipulating lists, is that we want to be able to add to the end with append. We could potentially insert somewhere else if we want by passing in an index, or we can pop with an index if we want to remove at a specific spot, right? Okay, cool. Any questions on that before we move on? You guys good on that? All right. Another type of data structure that you guys are going to come across is called a dictionary. All right. Now in JavaScript we call them objects, and in other languages they'll be called hash maps or things similar to that. And all this means is that we have a number of different key value pairs that are all in this one dictionary. Okay. So let's just create one. Let's just say my dict. Sorry, I hope. All right, let's change this. All right, let's just say I'm going to create a person, okay? And that person is going to have some different key value pairs. So maybe they'll have a first name. So we'll go first name. And since Jessica is sitting up front, like a good student, I'm going to put her as my person. Last name, Castellanos. Okay, cool. And then let's say we're going to have Jessica's email as well. We'll just say j@c.com. All right, cool. So we've got this dictionary that has kind of like bundled up some different information about her. And that's kind of nice. Because a lot of times we're going to want one object or one thing to just have some different attributes connected to it, right? Okay.
Wait, sorry, what was that last part you said?
I don't know.
Ah,
No, I'm kidding. I'm
no.
I'm just playing with you. No, I was just saying a lot of times we're going to want to have some different key value pairs that are associated with some object,
Oh,
right?
okay.
Now, again, in Python, we call these
So
dictionaries.
dictionary is called object, essentially.
So,
Okay,
no, a dictionary is the same thing. It's
As-
essentially the same thing as an object
Oh.
in JavaScript. Yeah. Okay. So this is how you guys can establish key value pairs. What if I wanted to add some key value pair after the fact? So I've already created Jessica, this person, right? What if I wanted to add, I don't know, hair color? I could do that, right? So I could say person, and then in brackets, hair color equals black. Black, all right. Okay. So there we go. So now we've added this key value pair to Jessica's dictionary, right? Now let's print out that dictionary, make sure it looks right. Person. Okay. And there we go. You can see all these key value pairs that we put into it, and of course hair color is part of that as well, even though we kind of added it after the fact. All right. Excellent. So another thing that we tend to need to do with both lists and sometimes dictionaries is we need to actually iterate through them, right? So that we can touch on individual items in the list. So let's go back to my fruits up here. I'll just comment this stuff out for now. Comment out the print there. So what I want to do is I want to just iterate through this list of fruits and basically print each item separately, right? Python gives us an extremely nice way of doing that. And I want to show you guys this because you'll be using it quite a bit. So let me get rid of my pop. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say for. We're going to create kind of a little loop here. And I'm going to say for fruit, which is what I want to call each individual item as I come across it. I want to call it fruit. Or actually, let me call it piece of fruit, just to be really explicit here. All right? And then we're going to say in fruits. Okay? Now notice here how I've added this colon here. We're going to open up a new block of code. So for each fruit, I want to do something with it. So I'll press return here. And notice here that we've gotten indented. Does anybody know why?
Is indentation important for
In Python, indentation is extremely important, yeah. So if I open up a new block of code with a colon like this, I need to indent one level over from where I am currently. Okay?
Is this supposed to be in my fruits? Or
Oh, yeah, it is. Sorry about that. Whoops. My fruits. Nice catch. All right, so again, what I want to do is I just want to print out each fruit individually. So let's go print piece of fruit, right? Now, where am I getting this piece of fruit variable from? Can anyone tell me?
created it in
I created it in the loop. So what I'm saying is that we're going to touch on every single fruit here, and each one of them I'm going to call piece of fruit. Okay, so that gives me access to that individual item. So let's test this. Okay, excellent. So we printed out each fruit individually, right? That's exactly what we were trying to do. So that's one way to iterate through a list. There is another way that we can do as well. The second way that I'm going to show you guys becomes important when we actually want to modify something in that list. Okay? So here, all I wanted to just know, I wanted to print out each name separately, so I didn't need to do anything. I'm not actually manipulating that specific item in the list. What if I wanted to potentially be able to change one of these items? then I may want to use a different way, and I'll show you guys that. So if I want to iterate by using indexes, I could do something like this. For, so usually when we're doing iterators, we call it I, right? For I in, and then we're going to use this built-in function called range. Okay? So range takes a variable number of arguments. It can take, at the bare minimum, it needs to take one argument. Okay, so if I said range of 10, for instance, that's going to give me all the numbers up to but excluding 10. So it goes 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. So what we can do here is we know that we can get the length of our list. Remember that other built-in function that we talked about, the Len function? So we can use that Len function and then pass in the actual list name, right? So my fruits. Okay, so let's talk about what this is saying here. So the len of my fruits, according to this, I have how many right now? 6, right? I've got 6 fruits. So what it's saying is we're taking the range, and it's going to go from 0 to 5. We're not going to have 6 because the range function cuts off the final number. Okay. So if we're going to get this range of 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that will allow me to actually access these guys by index here.
Can we use the same as JavaScript, length I less than the length of code? Instead of range,
You could do it potentially in a while loop, but you can't use the exact same syntax that you guys have been doing, like the for, var I equals 0 and all that stuff.
no, for this sentence for I in, just instead of range, we can use I less than the length of.
You could do that with a while loop, but not with a for loop. Yeah.
There's also a good thing about logic, right? The JavaScript, when it says for x equals until it's that point, that's just a flat integer. Where the syntax for this, it needs a list to iterate through. Right? So like JavaScript says that length is returned at the same time. Right? But this one, range and throw, that range or length by fruits represents 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's a list. So that's why the syntax here is different in the for loops because you have to put the list rather than saying start from this number, then count up to this endpoint. So you're not, yeah. So what is JavaScript? It's an endpoint, but this one here you provide a list. So it's a little different.
That makes sense? Yeah? Okay. All right, cool. So again, we're getting this iterator here. Each time it's going to represent a different number in this list that has been returned, right? So returning a list back that goes from 0 to 5. So I can access the items in there by doing something like this. I can say print, and I'll comment out this other one too because we're trying to do the exact same thing. I can say print my fruits, and then I can put in brackets here the index that I'm interested in, which is just going to be I, right? So whatever I is in that current iteration. First time around, it's going to be 0. Second time around, it's going to be 1, and so forth. Right? So we should be able to print all our items this way. Okay? Now, what if I wanted to just replace all these items in the list? Just because, I'm just kind of like throwing it out there. What if I wanted to replace them all with the letter L? No reason. How could I do that? Exactly, yeah. So I can say my fruits at I equals L. Okay, and then we'll print it out afterwards. Fruits. Okay, now I've just got this list of L's. It's pretty exciting. So the reason why I wanted to show you guys this is that would we have been able to do this if we were using this other construct that I showed you guys? So on line 39, again, I was just iterating through and I was printing out those fruit names, but I won't be able to actually change them. I can't do anything to them. They're there and I can print them, but I can't touch them. I can't change them. All right. So that's where this whole range business comes into play. Is if I want to actually modify an item at that index, then I need to use this type of syntax. Okay. And this will come into play when we do Python Olympics a little bit. All right. Cool. Any other questions about that? No? All right, so let's get back down here to our dictionary here. So we had our person. I just wanted to show you guys real quick how we could potentially loop through that person and print out some different things. Either the keys in the dictionary, we could print out the values in the dictionary, or we could print out both the key and the value. All right? Oh, to uncomment and comment? Oh, so that's just command and the / or control if you're on PC. Okay, so
So the result that you have right now on the right of the screen, is that with the list or actually just an order? It has the bracket with it, right?
yeah, the brackets are here.
So that's the list.
This is the list, yeah, because remember I replaced each fruit item with a letter L.
But before you're having each items print a separate line, right? It's still a list.
Yeah, in the other case, I wasn't actually just printing the entire list. I was actually iterating through it and then printing each item separately. So I was doing it slightly.
That as a list for that, or all the list is within the bracket. That's not also.
Yeah, okay. So before, when I was iterating through it, I was simply printing each item.
Right.
So that was not a list, right? It started out as a list, but when I printed through it, I was just printing one thing at a time.
Right.
Yeah. Now I was actually just printing the entire thing.
Oh, it's-
And that's why it's showing it with the brackets.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so let's see how we can actually loop through this dictionary. So if I want to loop through the person dictionary, I can do something like this. For, we'll call it key in person dot keys. Okay? And what this is going to give me is going to give me a list of all the keys. So I've got first name, last name, and email, right? And I could print out those keys if I wanted to. So I can say print key. Whoops. I meant to say in. I don't know why I put equals. Okay, so let's test that out real quick. So here we're printing the first name, last name, and email, just like expected, right? What if I wanted to print out just the values? So I could do the same thing. I could just change this to values. All right. Values is not defined.
Because you're
Oh, yeah. Why did I say, oh, Jesus. Okay. Value, and that should be value. Okay. There we go. Okay, so now we got first name, last name, and email, but I don't know what the keys are with that, so that may not be extremely useful. What if I want to print out both the key and the value? Well, Python gives us a nice syntax for that as well. So we can say, I'm creating a value called key, and I'm also creating a variable called value. And the way that we get to those is by saying items. We invoke this function called items. Okay? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to print out the key and the value by just dropping a comma inside the print function. Okay? So now we've got this all printed out in a nice way. I've got key, value, key, value, key, value. All right? So that's how we can loop through a These are the 3 different ways that we can loop through a dictionary.
So
Yeah,
items
Python.
returns 2-dimensional list, right?
Yes, correct.
So for the for loop, it's. I'm trying to figure out the syntax for that.
Yeah, so let's print out person.items. Oops. Okay, so it's giving us, as you can see, we've got this list on the outside, and then inside we have these little, this is called a tuple, when you guys see parentheses
Yeah.
like this.
Yeah.
So what a tuple is it's just like a list, only you can't modify any of the items in it. Once that tuple is created, that's it. It's done. Consider it immutable. All right.
Go back into your keys or your value and
No, you can. It's just that what I did was I printed out here invoking, we invoked the items function, which returned us back this list that has all these little immutable tuples inside of it. Okay? You guys probably won't have to worry too much about tuples. I mean, they'll crop up sort of here and there, but just remember it's a list that you can't modify after the fact. So once it's created, it's done. It's immutable. Okay?
So is this a list right now, or is a tuple?
Are you which one?
The
This
last-
thing that we just printed out here? It's a list that has tuples inside of it.
Is the tuple this whole like multiple objects?
So in terms of the, I guess just trying to understand the syntax, right? So you're providing it 2 values in which you're saying it iterates through this, list of lists.
Mhm.
So you have 3 elements, 3 lists, in which
So again, it's one list
Yeah, it's
that
just
has
one list
3
with
tuples
yeah.
inside of it, right?
Yeah, that. And I guess I'm trying to figure out like how the key and value represents what coordinates. Because either you're saying
So as you can
for
see,
each-
the key was the first thing in the tuple, right?
Right.
And then the value was the second thing inside of it.
right. So then, for
Hence why we had this key comma
Right.
value like that.
So if we have, let's say, in our iterable, each element within that list is 3 elements. That means you would have to assign 3 values to get the entire set. I'm just trying to understand
Correct, but if it was a dictionary, it wouldn't, right? It would
Yeah.
still just be a key and a value.
Right.
Like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
So
pretty
don't
much
watch out for overcomplicating it because I think that some people are going to get confused with that.
Yeah,
sort of thing.
I was trying to understand the
Yeah,
full
I got
syntax
you.
of the
I got you.
Because like from base value of a single variable you're tracking in that list, it makes sense, right? You're just iterating it.
Mhm.
But then as you get,
Is key and value, those are like dedicated words that mean those things? It's not
No,
like-
you could call this whatever you want. Like I could say, oh, I want to call this val.
But like the function dot keys is dedicated. Right?
Yeah, that you would obviously have to use because that's the built-in.
Right.
Right.
yeah, there's
But
enough
then-
reserve space.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, this would do the exact same thing.
Okay, it's always left and right. So let's say like even if we're using items and we just have key, it'll just use first name, last name, and email as the values because the leftmost of that lists.
Correct. Yeah, because key is the thing that comes first, right? In those
Right.
tuples, then that's why it's
It's gonna be left side.
left side first, right? So now this doesn't mean that I have to use the key. I could obviously still just print the value if I wanted to, but it would make most sense to use items if we were using both the key and the value. Okay. All right. So let's keep moving. That's most of what you're going to need for kind of looping through dictionaries and so forth. We talked about strings. We talked about numbers. Let's talk about operators real quickly. Okay, so what if I need to compare a couple things? We can do that. Let's say I want to print 5 is greater than 2. What am I expecting there? True. So that's giving us a Boolean, right? Printing out true exactly as we expect. What if I printed as people head for the door? See you guys. Wow. This is a first. Okay, so again, if 4 equals 4, this is true, right? So if we're doing comparisons, we want to use the double equal sign, as opposed to when we're assigning something, we would use the single equal sign, right?
But does the Python also have the triple equal sign? Just like,
No, it doesn't.
does it?
Nope. Yeah, what if I wanted to, let's see, print
Oh yeah.
true is true. Let's see if this works. Hey, it works. Okay. I'm just testing something out. So we can print true is true, right?
Is. Oh, so is
Is
compares.
true.
Is is another comparator.
Yeah, true is false. We would expect this to return false, right? Okay, so that's false. So what if I said 4 is not 5? We would expect that to return true, right? There we go. Okay. So for the most part, these comparisons are going to work the way that you expect them to. Generally, we're going to be using those within the context of some kind of conditional, right? So we'll ask a question, and then if that condition is met, then we will run some code inside there. So let's try that here. Let's say if 5 less than 10, then let's just print 5 is less than 10. Okay, and we got that because that was true, right? What if we want to have an else condition? So this works exactly the same way as you guys have seen. The syntax is slightly different because we're not using curly braces, right? We would say else print 5 is not less than 10. So again, we're not going to trigger this else condition because it's not true. Well, what if I change this and I said 10 is less than 5, so this time we would get into the else, right? 5 is not less than 10. I lied. It is less than 10. Okay, what else can we do? So, a while. You want to do loops? Yeah, we can do that in a second. All right, so the other thing that you can do is you can also have else-if conditions like we see in JavaScript, only here the syntax would be slightly different. So elif, right? And then we would say, what is the next condition that we're checking? So if that's not true, let's check to see if 6 is less than 10. Okay? And again, we still get into the second one here because the first one did not trigger. And then we checked, hey, wait, what if 6 is less than 10? And that was true, right? Okay, so we got into
and
the
that's
second.
different than just doing if 10 is less than 10, only less than if 6 is less than
Well, so the reason why this is different is because
10. Right.
if you did these as separate if conditions,
Yeah. It would,
then we would always run the second one,
oh,
right?
Right.
Whereas if we had them connected using an elif,
Yeah.
the second one would only run if the first one had failed.
I see. And then that's similar. In JavaScript, you can put the condition after else, right? I don't think I ever encountered that.
No, you would do else if you're trying to put a
You-
condition
oh, okay.
there.
Got it.
Yeah. Cool. Any other questions about this? Does the if, elif, and then else kind of make sense to you guys? Okay.
As far as operators, what exactly is I've heard it before floor division, 2 division signs. What is division set?
2 division signs?
So that's like 2
Like
slashes.
that?
Two
2 slashes?
Yeah.
Let No, I'm not familiar with that. Do you have any idea what that does?
It's a comment or something.
Well, when you're commenting in Python, you're just going to use the pound sign.
Is it
Like a
like
single line comment or something.
is it like two conditions like the and in JavaScript?
No, yeah, see, this isn't going to work because if I actually do this with the double slash, it's highlighting that as a syntax error. So,
Like a before, I think, comma, and then comma.
It was like,
You want
what's
to
it?
we'll do the second line.
Oh, math.c.
Yeah, I think.
Python.
Python.
Hey, someone caught that. I was wondering if anyone even saw that. Python? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where that came from. You know, sometimes these slips come through.
Try typing the two backslashes and say floor division.
Okay.
When I was kind of like trying to review it, there's something called floor division.
Yeah.
Floor division.
Yeah, that. I don't know if that's really going to be relevant.
Integer division. Any expression evaluating to a numeric type. Also referred to as integer division. The resultant value is a whole integer, though the results type is not necessarily int.
Oh, that's how to circumvent it being a float. Wait a second, it's still a float. Oh, no.
Yeah, it is.
Ah,
If we're not going to use it, it's cool, but I just saw, I was like, stuff like that.
Yeah, that's pretty
I didn't
interesting.
understand it at all.
Oh, so it just does it based on the whole. So it doesn't really. It maintains a decimal point. If it has. I don't know, it's returning it 2.0. It's just not doing the 0.5.
So it's a whole integer, though the results type is not necessarily int. That's interesting.
Because if you do like a 5 and 2, 5 dash dash 2, it'll return 2. If you do a 5 and 0, slash slash 2, it's 2.0.
I get back to you.
And then if it doesn't have a decimal at the end, then can you convert it to an integer? 3.0.
So if we do 5 double slash 2 is 2. Yeah, interesting. So it did floor it for us. Oh, that's kind of fresh. I like that. That may come in handy, actually. Very good, Shay.
On the internet.
I like the addition here. I like the participation.
I was like 5 divided by 2 it's not 2. So
Man,
has to be something.
that's kind of nice. All right. Yeah, so I'll put that out there as something that you obviously don't have to know, but maybe if you wanted to floor something, could come in handy. That's pretty cool. All right. Word. Yeah, somebody else was asking about a while loop as well. We could also have while loops here in Python. So let's say I just create some variable, my num equals 10. Now let's just do a little while loop. So we'll say while my num is greater than 0. So again, I'm going to open up a new block of code. So I use my colon and then I indent. Let's print my num. Then let's decrement it. Can I do that? I feel like I need to do it this way. Minus equals, right? Okay, so the reason why I'm decrementing here is because obviously we don't want our while loop to just keep running, right? So I'm basically just trying to print values from, we're starting out at 10, and then we should go all the way down to 1, because it's while we're greater than 0, right? So let's try that. And there we go.
That's the way of doing the for loop, which is more explicit.
Yeah, that is kind of a decent way of thinking about it, I think, is that a for loop is really kind of a specialized version of a while loop, right? Yeah, so I mean, conceptually, they're quite similar. You guys can also tack an else on to the end of this if you ever wanted to, so Yeah, kind of weird. Like my while loop has ended.
Conceptually, from a human logical perspective, like, what does that mean?
Yeah, I know.
Do
Like
this thing and keep checking
I
this
know. I mean,
condition.
the reason why I brought it up is because it is in the platform, but it's a little weird to me. It's like if I wanted to just do something after the while loop was done.
I guess if anything, because the while that is a conditional by definition.
Yeah.
And then if it's conditional, you can tag you can append the else to your conditional. So
Yeah.
kind of makes sense in that regard.
I mean, it's essentially acting the same as if I just got rid of the else, though, right? And I just printed this.
Yeah.
I don't know. That seems a little less cumbersome and confusing to me to just print it out. Yeah. All right. So we've covered a lot of ground today. I want to just kind of get a sense for people's levels of understanding. So when I ask for thumbs, it's going to be like this. Thumbs up means, yeah, I get it, feel good about it. To the side means, yeah, I need some clarifications, but it was pretty good. Down means you really didn't understand, all right? So let's have some thumbs on this. I'm going to come around and have a look. Jessica, thumbs. Good. Sideways over there. Up, sideways. Sideways.
I'm like trying to get us. Essentially, I did it. But it's like if you ask me to program or do something right now, it's.
Yeah.
Well, the platform's going to ask you to do some things right now. No, that's fine. There's maybe a little bit of clarification needed. If you guys have any specific questions right now, I'd be happy to take them because everyone's here. Other people might benefit from your questions too. Don't be afraid of, quote, asking stupid questions. There's no such thing, except sometimes.
Could I actually just see the syntax of the my fruits and the how to like add specific things? It's right. I think it was
Right here?
I think it's a little bit down. Not the appendant stuff. It was like the range.
Oh, I see. Where we were actually looping through it and touching on each index.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So this one's a little bit tricky, but again, we'll sort of read it from inside out. And first thing is we'll take the length of my fruits, which at that time I believe was 6. Right. And then what we're doing is we're invoking this range function on that. What the range function is going to do is it's going to give us back a list that goes from 0 all the way to everything but that number. So it's going to go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But it won't give us 6. Which means that's going to give us every single index in the list. And that's why I can see this.
It's probably just coming from the JavaScript algorithms from for loops coming to like this, where it's just like it looks a little funky, but it makes sense. It makes sense.
Yeah, it looks a little funky, but it's also kind of clean looking. You know?
It's a lot clearer than JavaScript.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if you want to think about it, say like like the I less than whatever.
No,
It's the same thing with the length.
Except I guess it's the cutoff. It's like what goes inside the for loop, and then the cutoff. It's like there's no indentation at all. And it's like it's cool. It makes sense now.
Yeah, so there's one thing interesting about this range function that we can touch on real quick is if you don't provide a starting point. Yeah, so if I wanted to start at, say, 5, I could do that. So let's say print range. If I wanted to start at 5 and then cut off at 10, I would expect this to be 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right? Everything but 10. So let's print that out. Why did it literally print out the word range? That wasn't really what I expected. New range. Let's just set that equal to a variable, right? What? Okay. Did I do something wrong? What's that?
It's running ranges.
Why is it actually saying that literally?
Can you scroll up?
Sure. To where specifically?
Yeah, when we initially did range with SMC syntax. Yeah, range stop. Is it because that range is...
I mean, it's definitely. That's so weird. I mean, it's something that we can iterate through. Obviously, it's sort of bizarre that I can't just kind of see this thing that we're
Yeah,
going to
'cause
iterate
unless it's
through,
like
right?
for loop specific, and then to do something
Yeah.
that returns a range of numbers is like some other function.
Okay, but basically what I wanted to show you guys is, let's say I wanted to, let's say num, so I'll say for num in range, and I want to go from 5 to 10, right? Now I can print num. Okay, so that's doing what we expected to do. We're printing 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. What if I wanted to actually sort of increment by 2 every time? So rather than the standard where I'm just going up 1 each time, you can actually pass range a third argument of 2 if I want to increment by 2. Okay? So now we're only doing odds. We're doing 5, 7, 9.
So is there an actual way to
Kinda
change
nifty.
it? I guess your increments rather than changing your variable? Because the thing is, with this syntax, we're modifying that list rather than changing the rate of which we're actually iterating.
No, I didn't change any list. We didn't even start from a list, right? I'm just calling this range function.
Right, but the thing is, like, that range function is returning 5, 7, 9. Instead of saying the for loop itself will go from 5, then 9, then etc.
Well, I mean, essentially we're looping here. I'm a little confused what your issue is.
Oh no, because the output is the same, but logically it's we're providing we're modifying the list we want the for loop to iterate through to only contain 5, 7, 9, but it's still iterating it by one by one by one. Versus
No, it's
modifying
not iterating by 1. It's iterating by 2.
Yeah, but I thought
Because I provided that argument there. I'm saying no, I want to jump over 1 every
Right.
single time. So it would be like in JavaScript if at the end, instead of I++, we said I plus equals 2.
Okay,
That means that we're just jumping over.
so that means that
that
range is definitely from it's that for loop specific. Because the way I'm reading it is you're saying for this value inside this list, and then the way I'm calculating this list is starting. It returns a number based on 5 through 10,
Right.
and then it's incrementing by 2 in that list. So then we're creating that list based on 5, 10, and 2. But the for loop logic that resides underneath that is still going through that list by one by one by one.
No, I don't think that's correct. I think it's only returning us back, and I can't really say for sure because obviously when we were printing it, we were just seeing range, so that wasn't very helpful. But no, I don't think it's actually still creating a list that would have all of those numbers. I think that this quote list that we're creating only includes the ones that we're touching. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a little bit better.
Just something cool to know about. I mean, this won't be like super important in terms of the work that we do, but a handy little thing if you want to jump over indexes. All right, cool. We've gone really long. Any other questions before we break and get to work? Sorry that took so long. You guys had great questions though, so I appreciate that. All right, I'm going to stop.